Hey, 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 everyone. This is Hannah again, your girl from Career Image Solutions. Extremely excited about today. I was introduced to Kevin Logan by one of our partners, and I'm telling you, it was magical from the first minute all the way to the end. And I know that you will get a chance to experience just what I'm saying. Kevin and I got a chance to talk about some of the common things that were happening in the workplace, and I heard the expertise just oozing out of him about remote work. And I'm telling you, you're gonna want to get your notepad right now. I don't know why you're still looking at me. Get your notepad right now, get your pen, do whatever you need to do. Get ready to take some notes, because the tips that will be shared today will truly be impactful. We're only probably going to touch a little bit of the iceberg, but I'm sure that you'll be able to connect with Kevin thereafter, for your organization and or for you personally. So let's go ahead, and it's not a real stage, but Kevin, welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, it is a real stage. It's a platform.
That's
We're doing
That's
things
right.
differently now. So,
That's right.
the way that we're working, the way that we're engaging, the way that we are inspiring one another, it is all in a different type of element. So, no, thank you so much for having me. I love your enthusiasm. You just send off. You like those sparks that just ignite other things. So, I always appreciate that and talking to you.
You are more than welcome. I'm just so excited for this conversation, because it's truly needed. There's a lot of theory, but practice right now versus practice happening in the workspace, I like to call it. But before we even get into some of the best practices in remote work, I wanted you just to tell the good people a little bit about who you are and your expertise.
Well, I'm someone that just shows up every day, no matter what I'm doing. I show up for work, whether I'm working, solely on something for myself, if I'm working on something for a client. This has gone back to when I worked as a technician, when I worked in corporate as a manager, if I am teaching as an adjunct for some of the colleges and universities. That's what I do. I show up and I'm present, fully attentive, in the uniform of the day. And so for those who are military or first responders, they know what that means. That means that you just don't wear what you want to wear. We have to wear the uniform that's appropriate for what our task is today and the mission at hand that we are going after. And so I think that's important in carrying out things that we're tasked with, and even the things that we desire to do.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So let's transition to the topic at hand, shall we?
Yes,
Drum
yes, yes,
roll,
yes.
right? So here's the deal, right? I shared with you that we've been seeing lots of different, ever since COVID, and we're still in the pandemic, even though people don't believe that we are.
Yes, we are.
We're still in
Yep.
the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've been seeing, at least from our side of the Beltway, is that there are many companies requiring people to either come into the office, do some type of hybrid format, and then there are some other companies that are making the absolute decision to say we are going to be a remote, environment. But then what we've seen though is that people are using the word remote really loosely.
They are. Yeah.
And not necessarily, you using it in its legal definition, but also which leads to further confusion with employees and things of that nature. But underlying though, some of the company leaders that we've been working with, they want to allow their employees to work from home or have that flexibility. But what we've been hearing is that they don't know if the person's going to be doing the work. Mm-hmm. They don't know, like, what's going to happen to morale, what's going to happen to culture if they're not in the office, So again, there's just a whole lot of, again, theory versus practice. And one of the things I love about what you are going to be sharing with us today is that you have both. You have the practice before it became theory, and you have the real live theory and best practices. So could you just like open up and let us know a little bit about what you think is the state of remote work and talk to us about some best practices?
So the state of remote work is that it's here. It has been here. It's just that, and I like the fact that you said different people defining it. It's how it was not defined versus more so how it was defined. When we talk about individuals being out in the field, they're working out of that main office. They may have shown up there that day to pick up a vehicle and to move on. But are they really doing the work? And so when you look at a technician that may come to your house, someone to service your washer and dryer, your dishwasher, so whatever the case may be, they're working remotely. They're working on site for us as that consumer. And so defining it is critical for the organization. It's also critical for the individual who desires to do it or not to do it. And we've got all types of different in-betweens that we may not get in today, but we'll get at least the fillers for those. And so whether I am working as a consultant, whether I am working as a leadership development or executive coach, in that space, and individuals can also look at their titles as well. One of them is the environment in which you work in. And right now, we are engaging in an environment and we're utilizing technology. And so you've got to define your environment. What is it? If I can't see you, well, then you're not working. Well, is that really true? Or is it that we really don't know and understand the person? And when we know and understand the person and what their needs are, then we can say, oh, there's no issue in that person because they have that motivation. And then we have to define the motivation. Now, I lean a lot towards intrinsic motivation because I believe that's that joy and satisfaction that people will burn the midnight hour on because they like it. As it's been said many times, if you're enjoying what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. And so for the person, what is that? For the organization, can they recognize that in individuals? And then in that recognition, and this is a big one here, it's that human capital. And we can look at capital let's look at it as a fixed asset. People value things that are fixed, and they dress it up and they'll paint it and take care of it and they'll weatherproof it and all this. But what about our people as an asset? How are we valuing it? Right now we're in, the economy is changing and shifting. The cost of living is going up and what have you. So how do you still live and with a set amount of money and still make these things? Well, we have to look at individuals, people, human beings in that same facet. How do we make sure that they are of value, for the things that we need to do? So those are three pillars. Before we get to best practices, I believe that there are pillars that need to be uprighted. It's just like if you're building a building. The taller the building, the deeper you go so that you can have that stability above ground. Below ground, that unseen is actually what feeds what we see. Even in human beings, the unseen allows you and I to be seen right here in a collaborative space right now. So if we look at that, and those pillars begin to set the foundation, and companies, they can set the pillars and find out, okay, an environment is a crucial pillar for us, because now the maps behind me represent the global world that we live in. We're just not regional anymore. We're just not southeast or northwest. We are a global world out here, managing different types of things. Right now, we're here where you and I are. It's about 4 something within our time zone or approaching that. Somewhere else, it's already tomorrow. It's already Friday, midday. Someplace else, it hasn't become Thursday yet. So how do we navigate that environment, what are the individuals who want to do that, and then what individuals are somewhat, I don't want to say afraid or incompetent, but it's a more of a challenge for them. Because when we get into those needs, we're talking about specifically what's the autonomy, what's the competence. And let me be clear with competence. I'm not saying that a person is incompetent. It's that your learning curve may be a little steeper than someone else. We can take now, for instance, the generations. We've got four generations in the workforce, first time ever, from baby boomers all the way down to Z. And so how does one, each other support one another in that? It's really simple. We don't, it's not about separating, it's about bringing individuals together. It goes to the need for relatedness. As you said, some companies and organizations want people to come back to work. Well, what does come back mean? Does it mean that I can't be related in a remote working environment? It does not. It means that regionally, we've got an organization that has these X amount of thousands of individuals. So where is everyone living? And so you can have a pop-up, you can have a social gathering for someone in this particular time zone that another time zone says, well, we don't want to do that. We're in a place where maybe hockey is the thing, or maybe we take our children all to this particular festivity. And so just finding different ways to strategize the concerns that we have.
I absolutely love that. And here are some takeaways. I really like the concept of looking at the individual.
Yes.
Right, because I feel like, and I'm included, right? Because our team, we are completely work from home. And I've recognized that I was making general statements, general decisions, general thoughts, and not necessarily taking the individual into perspective, right? Yeah. So in recognizing the individual, and oh my gosh, something that I learned in grad school forever ago, but intrinsic motivation.
Oh, yes.
I mean, we know it, right? But let me just tell myself, as leaders of organizations and especially people, leaders of other people, right? You don't necessarily always take the time to intentionally build practices, policies, activities, and work product and scope. You're about getting the work done.
Yes.
Not even looking at that intrinsic motivation. That was just absolutely huge. And then I love that you said we are not regional anymore. No. And I think, and again, you're saying some things that has not been said. Mm-hmm. Right? We know it, but it hasn't been, it's like we haven't made that statement, as an economy, as a workforce, that we are we reside in the United States, yes, but we are a global workforce.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. Especially nowadays, right? Where you have, I saw a meme on social media where this guy was saying he was on an airplane and his supervisor reached out to him. I don't know if you saw it.
I did not.
Supervisor reached out to him and said that he would like to have a meeting with him in 5 minutes, but he's on a plane. He's supposed to be at work, but he's on a plane. So even if you think that you're not a global workforce, your team might be working from, Bermuda somewhere, doing their work and, elsewhere. Were you going to say something?
No, and that's exactly true. Just because he's on the plane doesn't mean that he can't access Wi-Fi. And I'll get to a technology part of being part of another pillar later, but these are the things that we can look at, that we may look at its usage only for one thing, but how can we expand it and make sure that we're hitting cliche-ish, all four corners of what we have? Are we using the capacity? And that's one thing, what was mentioned with respect to the human capital. What about the capacity? For those
tell us a little bit more about that.
So for individuals, for my economists out there, and accountants, they're looking at dollars and cents all the time. And so, but the capacity, the dollar never changes. It's still square. The dimensions of it is still the same. They've changed the threads over the years because of different criminal activity, so that we can see a valid dollar and it not be copied. But actually, the dollar is the dollar. It's the capacity, the amount that it can purchase based on where we are in our external environment. Internally, that dollar takes up the same space in a wallet as it always has. Externally, its purchase becomes lower. I can only get, instead of 8 oranges, I can only get 4 now, or whatever the case, however you want to associate that. And so what's the capacity of us as individuals? For people, I love my single moms. I love my single moms because I think they are so underrated. When you can raise children, and even if you're not a single mom, but when you can raise children, you bring some capacity. If you got a couple of them and you getting them to places and you still getting to work and you still have sanity to get through 8 hours of work, oh, your capacity extends way beyond that. You can even, things where you can even think about. And that's what I love working and coaching with my single moms. And I love and even moms and dads, I love coaching with them because they get to a point where it's like, this is what I do, this is what I get. But wait a minute, look what you bring to the table also. You and mom, you all, parents, period, you all are connecting and crossing lines, and okay, I'll take this one here and then I'll get dinner ready. That's capacity right there. You're thinking about, okay, healthiness. And okay, you know what? Tonight, fast food night, we've had practice, it's 8 o'clock. That's what we're gonna do. When we begin to think about this thing called capacity, it's what's our limit? And if we think about it from a sports metaphor, is you go to the gym and you go to practice to get stronger and to increase. Our runners, long runners, they begin nice and slow and methodical in their run. And they say, if you listen to those announcing it, oh, they're nice and comfortable and they're in it now. But when it's time for them to pick up, you can tell who's exerted themselves and who truly hasn't. And a lot of times that underdog will come from behind you that you never thought that they were just kind of laying there, because you've never seen a runner while they're running turn around and look behind them. They're always looking forward.
I really like that analogy for sure. No, that definitely brings it home, and I'm hoping that the viewers will also recognize what the capacity really means in this context for sure. Well, before you continued, I know you had some best practices, but were there any other insights that you had regarding the pillars that you were mentioning?
Yeah, so another one of the pillars is fit. You have to know your fit. Now individuals can look up, Webster has an array of definitions of fit, but you have to figure out what your fit's going to be. What is your F going to be? Is it going to be focus? Is it going to be fulfillment for the individual? What about for the organization? For the organization, do you need to fulfill slots and spots within your organization? What's your focus? Your I. What is your I within the fit? Is it innovation? So Zoom, this platform that we've been utilizing for a while, there are many video platforms out here. They didn't just come about when the pandemic came. We saw more value in them to be able to continue to do what we needed to do. So is your I innovation? Is your I the worthy ideal that you need to come up with? We saw a lot of companies transition and say, well, I didn't think it would work, but you know what? I think we're going to keep doing this and having some type of part of remote status. And what's your T? Is your T technology? Is your T timeliness? That could be a key, because depending upon where you are and the capacity of your human capital, is the timing right or isn't it right. One of the things I think about when I think about fit is getting ready to go purchase something. Um, so one of the things that came to mind, and I'll be transparent, red bottom shoes. You go purchase red bottoms for a reason. It's just not, I'm just gonna go in whatever. No, there is a special occasion. What's the fit? And then when you're going to try them on for the fit, think about the environment. Some places you go try things on, there's a fitting room. Other places, there's a dressing room. Why is it named differently? This goes back to what you said of how we're defining things. What's the difference between the two names? Is it the dimensions of the room? Does one have a door? Does one have a curtain? Does one have one mirror? Does one have 2, 3 mirrors? Does one have an outside place where you can come and you can look at the octagon mirrors and see all at one time? What's the difference in your fit? And organizations have to think about this when they're bringing people in of, am I having them try this on in a fitting room or in a dressing room? And then depending upon what that answer is, determines what the cost will be. Because the cost for an organization is turnover and retention. The cost for the individual is stress, ill-being, unhappiness. So we have to decide where are we trying things on. We purchase a vehicle, now we can purchase them now and it can just come right to our home and be dropped off. But do you want to test drive? Kick the tires, walk around a little bit. And so that needs to be valued by both the organization as well as the individual. Individuals, how are we saying that I want to kick the tires of the organization? Organization, how are you saying that I want to kind of walk around and kick the tires of the individual that's coming in to find out whether we have a fit or not? Listen, the HR side says, fix that resume up, make yourself look good on paper. The reality behind the ink is something completely different. And all leaders, managers, HR professionals, they've seen it, they've experienced it. Those of us that are employees, we have seen it, we have experienced it.
That is so good. I know that can be a half-day workshop in itself. Oh my goodness, that is so, I mean, I don't know if you saw me, I'm like, That is so powerful. Again, things that we just have not intentionally sat down with and really needed to hear you say that. It's really, 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 really. Okay. Awesome. So I know you had another pillar as well, though, or did you have anything else to add there?
So those are the 5 pillars.
Got it.
I see those 5 pillars. I see your human capital. You set that pillar in one of your corners. I see your needs, the needs of the individual based on their autonomy, their competence, and relatedness. That's another pillar that you set at another corner. Then we turn around and we get to the environment. The environment is another need that can go on your 3rd corner. And then we've got motivation that goes on the 4th corner. Now, fit goes in the middle. That's your support system, because as you are continuing to look back and forth between all those pillars, if you go on a construction site, to make sure everything is level, they use a laser. And you see this laser kind of spinning around, and it's making sure, and it's sitting at either on a wall or center of the floor or something, to make sure that this is where we want everything to align. And so if you're constantly looking at the fit towards human capital, towards their motivation, towards their needs, towards our environment, has our environment changed and shifted in a way that's now going to lessen the autonomy within needs? So right now we have external regulations that are taking place that's costing individuals more. The price of gas for individuals in a delivery service and that fuel, it's now costing more to deliver the same thing. And if they add extra weight to it, then that's going to impact what they're going to get as far as distance is concerned. So we have all these different elements that come into play that a lot of times we just don't consider. And so that's why fit goes right in the middle. And so what's our focus needs to be? Do we need to move forward with this? Do we need to have more fulfillment? What innovation do we have? What are the things that we have that we're not utilizing? For instance, we have these smartphones. Are we doing smart things with them? Most people would say, yes, I am. I'm doing the smart things that I want to do. All due respect with that. That's not a problem. But what about the things that you can do? What about the increased capacity? What about additional apps that help you with your productivity and progressing forward? And then on the T with that, and going back, and again, companies have to define this themselves. I'm just giving suggestions of what they could be. But individuals have to truly sit down and is it tenacity? Are you in an industry or an environment to where certain things are more critical than others? So your T may end up being something else. But that's that back and forth to all of your pillars so that you can have a firm foundation. And then you can build and rebuild and restructure any way that you want to do and align yourself with your vision, with your mission, with the values within your organization.
So awesome. This is such a good foundation. I feel like this is remote work foundations 101 or something. I don't know. I'm channeling your professor. Yeah, I'm channeling it in. But definitely these are some great, I hope you all are picking up what Kevin is putting down, because these are some really good foundational things that have to be put in place, because many of us just rush into thinking like, oh, let's just go hire somebody and we're gonna remote work or not remote work, and not having these things in place and not thinking about these pillars. And we really, really do need to. I want to ask you a quick question though, right? Sure. Because many people might be thinking, at least these are this is what I am hearing. Let me just put it that way. And some of our consultants or the team, how do you suggest that leaders, is there a difference between building or improving culture, cultivating culture rather, in a remote environment versus you being in person? What are the differences? Is there a real difference in cultivating culture?
100%. That's a great question. Yes, there is a difference. Now you hear one of the three-letter terms we hear is DEI. DEI. Everyone's talking DEI, but are you really doing DEI? And so to cultivate that culture and face to face, individuals can come down and we can just kind of have the water cooler conversations. We can kind of take a walk. One of the things in interviewing, I never like to sit across from somebody interviewing. If I'm interviewing someone, I'm like, come on, let's go take a walk. Let's walk down. Let's do this. That is just so awkward for me. So I never imparted that. So how do you, in getting that culture, how do you distinguish the difference? Is now in that remote workforce, it's do like this, get on the telephone. So how was your weekend? This, that, and the other. Get on the call. Hey, I just wanted to go over a couple of little things with you, not bombarding. And then also inviting someone else to come in for a little bit and then to leave. There are all types of ways where we can utilize this remote work to support that culture. But one thing that companies have to do is they have to look at the mirror of their own organization. They have to look at their leadership team. What does their culture look like? We become blind and we have biases on certain things after we work with someone for a period of time. And then then that reality kind of fades away of, it's a great individual. However, what are they doing for the culture? What more can they do for the culture? How can they help develop the culture better? This is when it comes back to the meeting those needs. What do the remote workers need as far as an individual? What competence, if they're working with someone like, okay, I'm trying to get this video to work and it won't play and I don't know how to do that, that's fine. That's just a learning curve. However, if they need something to come up and they're getting frustrated, that needs to be known so that it can be adjusted, so that they can be able to move on. So your face-to-face culture, also face-to-face allowed individuals to hide as well. It allowed individuals to hide behind that locked door. It allowed them not to be there.
Wow. Yeah.
It allowed them to associate with whomever they wanted to associate when they wanted to associate with them. And to kind of be like, oh yes, I see, we're going to get together and I'm going to put something on my calendar next week. And they could just kind of go off. Why? Because I've got this title. They see me as important. They're not going to chase me down in the hallway. So both, in my opinion, have their challenges. However, both, if individuals want to, can be worked through. That we can truly become inclusive. That individuals can become included and not felt left out.
Love that. Awesome. Something else that this is just my my annoyance again is the definition. And I caught myself, messing up too, the definition. We alluded to it, but I really wanted to hone in on it. The definition of remote work.
Yes.
If you had to coin a definition or put it in your own terms, what is remote work? What is it?
Remote work is doing tasks associated with an organization outside of that organization and not having to report to a physical location. You said earlier, work from home. Remote work encompasses work from home, and now there's another category, work from anywhere. And when you say anywhere, you bring in the different time zones, you bring in globalness, and then organizations are like, okay, well, wait a minute, and we have some organizations now that are saying, okay, you know what? As long as Eastern Standard Time, we have access to people between 10 and 4.
Yep.
Other than that, it doesn't matter to us. So you can live wherever you want to live. That's that work from anywhere. And so that's the part of remote work that individuals have. And one important thing is some companies will kind of change that a little bit. And so that's why it's important for an organization to define what's remote work to you. Can I live, in another time zone? We want you at least, X amount of miles to this place. This is one of the things I'm noticing also out here with some of the job announcements. They may say 100% remote, but you need to be within 100 or 50 miles proximity of ABC XYZ. This even holds true to our government. There's some government, I was in a meeting the other week, there are some government hiring positions that are there, and they want you at least 200 miles in proximity of X or Y. They're calling it remote, but for whatever reason, they want you within that mile or distance.
Yeah, we have quite a few clients that would prefer having that. And when I ask the reasons for it, they're like, oh, because we might need to bring them in to collaborate and connect. I'm like, well, that's not 100% remote. We need to call that teleworking. Even
Yes.
if it is 97% of the time you can work from home or work from anywhere, if it's not 100%, it's not fully remote.
And you bring up a really good point. The interesting part is in a survey that was done, a question was asked: 100% remote, 90% remote, or 80% remote?
Mm.
And see, these are the things that individuals, oh, no, it's 100% remote. But you know what? Once a month, we want you to show up. You just change the definition then, because we can really get into the data of that and the weeds and say, okay, well, you know what? Based on X amount of hours, 40 hours a week, yada yada yada, 4 weeks a month. Okay, so we're at 90-something% remote. We're not 100% remote if it's a requirement for me to show up. And so that's when the definition of these new terms come about. Telework has been around for a while, but then, hybrid comes into play. We've got another term, high flex, that kind of comes into play with some other industries and organizations. So that's why sitting down, finding that fit as it goes to your other 4 pillars is crucial. So your 5 pillars transition into your 5 best practices, which lead to your playbook. And another sports analogy is, if you look at any sports teams, they have playbooks, and they adjusted plays based on the defense. And so that playbook, players have to study it. They have to know it. And so what are organizations doing to bring the employees to the sideline to say, okay, this is what we're doing? What are we doing? And different sports they have during the off season. Well, a company doesn't necessarily have an off season, but they will have a slower time than others. What things do you have? Here's technology on demand that individuals can take part of and increase either competence, or that supports their needs, that increases their value. So now they're a greater asset. Companies want to work with those, being on individual development plans is something that people, they'll put you on these PIPs and all these different plans. But can an individual have the autonomy to say, how you doing? Can I get on an individual development plan so I can better myself? Well, we don't really see a need for you to do that now because, there are not that many positions available. But I want to be better. Why does this person get an opportunity to be selected? Can I self-select myself to be better and to improve? Can I support my increased capacity so that I can flourish, so that I can have greater potential? And so back to, to your point, when we first started talking, how are we defining these things? And is it that because I'm within an organization, I have to go with their definition? Or are they allowing me to bring my definition in on it? I want to say something with respect to that is, a lot of organizations talk about work-life balance. I see that a lot also. We have work-life balance. What balance is important, but alignment is critical. If you think about anyone that's ever had a flat tire, you get a flat, you throw your spare on and you go, and then you get your, put your donut on and you get to a tire shop the next day and you get it fixed. And you get it fixed. Before they put it back on, they will check the balance of it. And the reason being is because the other 3 tires are already balanced and will allow for you to move forward. If the balance isn't checked on the one that had some damage to it, when you go to move forward, you'll still have forward mobility. But then what you're doing is causing unnecessary wear and tear that you may not hear, you may not feel, you may not realize until it's later, and then damage has occurred in other places as well. So balance, yes, important. Alignment, critical. How do we align within the organizations individuals, how do you align within your life, across your life's domain of work, of home, and enjoyment, play, your extracurricular activities. And then when these two entities come together, then that's when we really see things take off, and we see them work in tandem, and we see them work together.
Very good. That happens to be my word for the year, alignment. Yeah. I've been just studying it, and this is another analogy to add to it. So yes. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Well, before we, wind up, and I know you've been giving the good people a whole lot of good stuff today, I wanted to know, if there were any other best practices or any key concepts from the playbook that you wanted to mention.
So, number one, your human capital. Know how to assess and value that human capital. For the person, the individual, know what you bring to the table. You're an asset. For the organization, do you know what you have? Second are the needs. What needs from an individual perspective do you have when it comes to autonomy, when it comes to competence, when it comes to relatedness? Do you need to have a different type of setting that allows more autonomy? Do I need some more opportunities to lessen my learning curve of competence? And then my motivation. So you mentioned that intrinsic motivation, but some individuals like that extrinsic motivation. Sometimes the problem with the extrinsic motivation is it will dry up. The bonuses will dry up. The raises, we can't give a raise right now. We're going through some things. But if we look at that intrinsic, that sheer joy of doing that one thing, that will move things a lot further. And then we look at that environment. What does that environment entail? What does that home office need? What does the office need? What does the office have that they can give to the employees in a remote work office that can support them? Maybe it's a stand for their computer to help their computer stand a little more elevated. Maybe it's a separate camera that they can utilize for their calls versus the camera on their laptop if they're using a laptop. Maybe it's some different lighting. I'm using some different lighting here that you all cannot see. What resources do organizations have that can support the environment of the remote worker? Maybe it's a mic. I've got a mic here that you all can't see that's utilized for podcasting. And then we get into the fit. What is your fit for individuals? What's your F for fit? What do you want it to be? For the organization, the same question. And then when you get to the I and the T, it's the same thing for the individual. What's your I? What's your T? And then for the organization, what's your I and T that you're going to look towards individuals? So all of those leads to your best practices of, and your fit. How does it feel? Once you put it on, is it tight? Does it need some adjusting? Do we need to take something out? Do we need to tuck something in a little bit? And for that environment, where are we located? Am I within the time zone? Am I out of the time zone? For the organization, do we have multiple offices that when one closes, another's open? And then for those needs, what is that choice? What is that flexibility? What's the opportunity for mastery that we can get and we can give? And so, and then going back up for that human capital, all stakeholders, looking at all stakeholders, whether we're owners, even our customers are our stakeholders. They're important to us. What's the value? How can they support human capital? A lot of times we'll have a lot of resources that are there available to us that we may not necessarily utilize. We may have a vendor or even a customer who's an expert at something, can we utilize them to help train us and get us up to where we need to be? Can we build different relationships? I love this. I love where we are in the world now, because people are dropping those, what I call 12-foot fences. And they're recognizing that, you know what, I'm not an expert in this, but you are. And it's not that we're in competition, but we're kind of changing things to where, can you help us get better? Because think about, if a vendor helps you get better, you get better for the customer. And then that parlays into an ecosystem to where that customer comes to you, and then as the owner, we need that vendor more. And it's a win-win for everyone.
Love that, love that, love that. I'm telling you, I have literally 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of notes.
You got your playbook. That's what it's about.
Yes.
Your playbook. Yes.
I have 4 pages of notes, literally have 4 pages of notes. And it has been phenomenal. And I know we can go on for more, but you all are not going to be able to keep watching it here. You all are going to have to find Kevin Logan and tap into all of the different things that he has available with the programs and teachings and trainings and offerings that he and his company has. So I just wanted to offer an opportunity for you to share any, other last tips with the audience before we close.
For the individual, take your human capital extremely serious. For the organization, take the human capital that you have seriously. Take that time to, there's a video out that says, sharpen your saw. Sharpen the saw so that you will be able to execute whatever it is that you want to do. Take that time to see the value that's there. Once you do that, all the other pillars come in alignment, your best practices come together, and then your playbook begins to form. A lot of times it's sequential. People want to go from A to B, and sometimes you got to go from A to D. Sometimes you got to go from B to Z. It's skipping over A, because I just don't know what A is right now. However, with the human capital that I've seen there, bringing in certain people, they can help you identify certain things that we just don't think about. And then it helps it run so much more smoothly, so much more fluidly. And you get rid of the stress, you've got well-being, you've got increased productivity, your progress is there, and then you're able to more identify the purpose. Because we're all here for a purpose. That individual came across your threshold for a purpose in that organization. Are you going to allow them to execute within that purpose, or are you going to diminish it?
Woo! Did you all just pick that up? I feel like that's a whole hashtag, a whole thumbnail, a whole meme, and a whole word. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I did a training not too long ago and looked at some numbers of the average hours that people spend at work across the different countries, and obviously every country is different. But on average, the number was like, around like 1,800 on average.
Yes.
On average, right? That's just a lot of hours. Most of us probably spend more than that, especially on this side of the globe. But when you think of that, most of us spend more time with our employers, our coworkers, than we do with the people that we love the most.
That's right.
So it makes sense to take the time to really invest and do what Kevin is sharing with us and looking at your human capital. And I love that you shared, because there are working professionals that will be watching this, as well as, company leaders, hiring professionals, other HR professionals, so on and so forth. It's so important that even if you are not leading a company and or a team, that you still take stock of where you are going,
Mm-hmm.
what you are called to, what you are supposed to be doing in this season, so that way you know what alignment looks like. Because at the end of the day, if you're gonna be spending that amount of hours with somebody,
That's right.
it better be on purpose,
Yes.
okay?
Yeah.
It better be in alignment, right? And not just a balancing situation. So that
Yes.
was awesome. But you had something to share?
No, I was just going to say that that's the key element. There's aligning that to your purpose, spending that much time away from those you care about.
Yeah.
So that means you segmented your values. Yes, we all have to work. For those who say, "Well, I got to work, I got to." Yes, we know that. But what about the values? And that's what brought on lately the Great Resignation, and we've given it so many different terms, but it's the Great Realization is what I call it. Individuals realize, wait a minute. I'm traveling an hour to work, an hour from work. I'm getting up an hour ahead of time. Okay, how many hours am I really spending
Come on, yeah.
towards this thing called work? I'm going to take a lesser position. I'm going to either take my expertise and turn into something that I want to do a lot closer. I'm going to take my children to school. I'm going to pick them up, or I'm at a certain point where I'm like, I don't want to do this. It's not that I can't learn it. I don't want to. I put in my 30, 35, 40 years of work, and I choose not to. And we don't have to be condemned because we decide not to do something that no longer aligns us.
Come on, yes.
It's our alignment. And that's why human capital is number one. That's why it has to be number one.
Absolutely. Great. Listen, this has been phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. And if we had a live audience, because I know everyone's going to be watching this in replay format, but we will be standing up, giving you a round of applause and ovation. Seriously, this has been absolutely wonderful. And I'm looking forward to attending some of your future trainings on this very topic and going in depth with it.
Well, listen, I greatly appreciate the opportunity. My hope is that individuals will take away something useful, that they will put it into practice, and that they will design their own playbook. The worst thing that I think that we can do is not utilize the gift of every day that we're given, and not find out what's there. At the end of the day, it ought to be like a gift that we received, and we're not just peeling back the tape gently and pulling it up. No, tear into it and open it up. See what's there. Look through the tissue paper. Look through the box. Make sure there's nothing else there. Then, because after the day is today is tomorrow's history. So tomorrow, when you look back on your day tomorrow, you're beginning to already set the stage for yourself, set the platform for yourself. It's another addition that's done. You can't go back and redo it. It's not a do-over.
Oh, Kevin, how can the people find you?
LinkedIn. Everyone, LinkedIn. I just got finished a major project, and so I am looking and doing some rebranding, but I'm always out there on LinkedIn. You all can find me, Kevin Logan. I am the consultant, I'm the coach, working with human capital. Again, I also teach. And so my thing is to work with individuals to help them become better, to live a more purposeful life where they are increasing their capacity and that they're flourishing. At the end of the day, you want to flourish for those who you value so that you can provide for them.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again for allowing me to just sit and to learn from you, but also you being able to share with this audience. And I just pray that you get tenfold what you poured out today. So again, thank you so much. And we look forward to connecting with you soon.
You are welcome so much. Thank you as well.